Welcome to Spiritism 101. I'm Vanessa Anceloni, and this is Luis Eduardo Almeida. And we are here to discuss some topics about Spiritism, especially the basics on Spiritism, and especially to follow the outline that Kardec brought us in this book, the Spirit's book. We have already discussed in previous chapters of Spiritism 101 the first part of the Spirit's book, which talks about the first cause of all things. In the first 4 chapters, Kardec brings us the answers of the spirits to questions related to God and the general elements of the universe, as well as creation and the vital principle. Now, tonight, we're going to start a new chapter on our studies on Spiritism 101. We're going to discuss and talk to you about the second part of the Spirit's book, which is the spirit world. It's very, very interesting that Kardec had the very questions that so many of us still ask nowadays. So this book is certainly very modern, very up-to-date, because it brings us answers to questions that many people in this planet are still clueless about. And in this very first chapter, on the second part, Kardec refers to the study on spirits. So we already know who are spirits. Spirits, as Louis explained us last time, are the intelligent principles, beings of the universe. But then Kardec wanted to understand about the creation of spirits, and he asked this very question about the definition of the spirits and how they were created, and whether or not they are a part of God. So when the spirits address this question on what are spirits, what is the definition of spirits, it's the very same one that we just discussed. It is the intelligent beings of the universe, and they inhabit the universe that we live in. Not only the planet Earth, but other planets, and even the worlds in other dimensions that our telescopes cannot see. Now, Kardec asked a very interesting question. Are spirits called children of God because they are parts of God, or are they distinct beings? It's very interesting because we feel now that we are children of God thanks to Jesus' teachings. Because before Jesus' teachings, we never thought about the possibility of feeling that we are children of God. And the spirits say, yeah, we spirits are creatures of God, are the work of God. But we are not a part of God. We don't belong to God. We are creatures of God. We are the work, the masterpiece of God, let's say this way. And for that very reason, we had a beginning. There is no way that we just existed from the beginning of all things. Otherwise, we would be the first cause of the universe. And the first cause of the universe is God, and not us, the spirits. But in this very first part of the chapter, Kardec mentions and gives a comment. In the first part of the Spirit's book, he refers to spirit not as the individuality of the living beings, of the intelligent beings of the universe. But spirits in the first part of this book is referred to as the intelligent beings in general, the spiritual principle. And in the second part of the Spirit's book, Kardec refers to the word spirit as already the human level of evolution. So spirits who already achieved, spiritual principles who already achieved the level of the human kingdom. So it's about the individuality of those spiritual principles. It's very important that we mention and understand this difference, just for didactic purposes, for sure. And then when Kardec continues these questions and answers, which is basically on question and answer 76 onwards, Kardec asks questions on, for example, whether or not, as you can also read in your spirits book, whether or not spirits are immaterial. And the answer is very interesting, because the spirit said, well, our human language is not able to define what spirits really are. And they say, well, in essence, it's different from the matter that we understand. And as we understand, we would conceive the spirit as a light spark that was created by God. But then Kardec asked, do spirits ever die? No, spirits never die. We live immortally. The bodies that we use perish, but we spirits don't die. And of course, if there are spirits everywhere in the universe, we also wanted to understand, as much as Kardec did, if there is an essential world, an essential realm, plane, and there is, which they called the world of spirits, which is in fact the one and only, the main and the first. As in other words, the Spirit said, the primitive world. It's the one that is real, that is true. We can bring an analogy to what Plato has already said when that great philosopher was still living that incarnation among us, the spirits on earth. When he said that the real world is not the one that we see, which is the shadow, which is the unreal world. It's just a consequence, a temporary one, just like shadows. Moreover, they understand, the spirits understand, the ones who gave the explanations to Kardec, and they explain us that in this spirit world, the spirits populate this spirit world, and moreover, and I want to read this very last question of this part that we're discussing with you. They say spirits are everywhere. This is answer to question 87. Spirits are everywhere. The infinite reaches of space are peopled with them in infinite numbers. Usually imperceptible to us, they are constantly beside us. This is very important to know. Observing and influencing us. The spirits are one of the powers of nature. They are the instruments of God, uses to accomplish the designs of providence. Now we stop here, because we need to understand the implications of these teachings in our lives. First, let us recognize that we are these very powers of nature, because we are spirits. So within us resides one of the powers of nature. Second, the fact that the Spirit said that we are instruments of God, that uses us to accomplish the designs of providence. When the Spirit said that, they never mentioned, well, this or that person, this or that spirit, but they said spirits in general, which means that we are all very important, that we shall never believe that we are less important than anyone else, because we are equally important to God and to one another in this universe. Because in each of us, God counts on us to fulfill His will in this universe. So now, Louis, how do we understand a little bit more about us spirits in terms of the form and the omnipresence of spirits, and later on one of the less dense bodies that we have.
Yes. Continuing this idea that Vanessa brought, it's very important to understand that spirits are something that is real. It's not some sort of philosophical idea or abstraction. When we say that we are a spirit, it means that this is something real. It's not an object, of course, a material object, but it's a real entity. We are not talking about imaginary entities or philosophical entities or abstractions, but in fact something real. The superior spirits say that, of course, we cannot see the spirit itself, but superior spirits will be able to see the spirit itself, and they give to us as a useful comparison that we can think of the spirit as a flame or as a spark. These are comparisons. So we can think of the spirit as this flame, as this oranging, as this spark, something that illuminates. And they also go ahead and say that this kind of vibration, this kind of light, will vary from gray to very brilliant ones, meaning superior spirits. So spirits, the spirits have something real, it's not an abstraction. Now, can spirits penetrate matter? Yes. So this depends, of course, upon the intelligence of the spirit, the superior moral level of the spirit, but the spirits are not hindered by any sort of material obstacles. They are capable of penetrating matter and passing through matter. Also, how do spirits move? They move by thoughts, by thinking. A comparison that we can make is like if we are in a park, or if we are in a class or in our job, and our body is there, but our mind is at something else. Might be in our house, or might be in another place, or might be with friends. So a useful comparison is with this, that although the body is there, the mind is somewhere else. With the spirit, with the body being less material than our current body, they will move around as their thoughts dictate them. That's why it's important for us always to keep track of our thoughts. Are we thinking of charity? Are we thinking of forgiveness? Are we occupying our thoughts and filling our minds with superior thoughts? Because when we disconnect, we will go to where our minds are attuned to. So this is a very important thing to pay attention, that the thoughts of the spirit will conduct his movements. Also, it's very important to understand that the spirit will never divide itself. The spirit cannot be divided. But the spirit can irradiate itself to two different places. So it's possible that the same spirit be visualized on two different places at the same time. I want to understand this is like the sun. When it's day, there is, for example, sun in Boston, there is, for example, sun in Miami. So it's the same sun. It didn't divide itself, but it irradiates itself to two different places, and it can be seen at the same time on two different places. So the spirit will not divide itself, but it can irradiate itself. And of course, this is a property of this moral superiority of the spirit, how superior the spirit is to irradiate further and farther away. Also, we talk about that. So far we have seen this, the spirit and our corporeal bodies. But now we begin to integrate our previous knowledge. We have discussed that matter, in fact, appears on many shapes and forms, and many densities beyond what we see in compositions and transformations, beyond what we see in our current world. So the spirit will be involved in a substance, a material substance that will form our spiritual body or perispirit. So this is a material substance that will respond automatically to the thoughts of the spirit and will envelop the spirit automatically. What kind of substance is this? We have already seen that it's a transformation of the cosmic universal fluid. So it's a material envelope that the spirit acquires around itself by the spirit's thoughts, and that this envelope forms our spiritual body, our perispirit. Of course, depending upon our moral level and our intellectual not in a sense as we understand as diplomas, PhDs or doctors, this kind of thing, but intellectual achievements over a lifetime, over multiple reincarnations, over spiritual lifetime, multiple reincarnations. Depending upon our moral and intellectual levels, this envelope, this material envelope, this perispirit, will suffer certain transformation that will make it less dense or more dense, more closer to matter or less closer, or more dissimilar of matter, so more ethereal. Also, this material envelope, this perispirit, will respond to the thoughts of the spirit. So, for example, we see many examples of that in André Luiz's work. André Luiz, the spirit who dictated many works through Chico Xavier in Brazil, where he says that superior spirits can be side by side with inferior spirits, so both are discarnated, and the inferior spirits will not be able to perceive the presence of the superior spirits because they are more ethereal. The perispirit is less dense. But the superior spirits can increase the density of their perispirit and then make themselves visible to these inferior spirits. Like superior spirits can also make their perispirits more dense and visible even to us, incarnated ones. So the perispirit, this material envelope that surrounds the spirit, will respond to the spirit's thoughts. Now, we have begun to address a very interesting point in which we have mentioned superior spirits, inferior spirits, more dense, less dense. And this leads us to the thought that we will discuss next week. So, if there are superiors and inferiors, or more advanced or less advanced is a better word, does this mean that there is an hierarchy of spirits? Does this mean that there is some sort of organization of spirits, that there is some sort of progress ladder that we can achieve and walk through so we get closer to God? So don't miss next week our next chapter on Spiritism 101, where we will discuss the different orders of the spirits, the different hierarchy of spirits. What does it mean? Why does it make sense? And the most important thing, the consequence of that in our lives. So we can have a better life in the sense that we can understand our purposes in life and what is expected to us to achieve more happiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you next week.